Good evening. You are listening to Right on Campus, the UW-Eau Claire College Republican podcast. Good evening. Welcome back to Right on Campus, the UWEC College Republicans podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Tatiana.
And we're the hosts of Right on Campus. Today we're joined with our club treasurer, Jackson.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back to Season 2 of Right on Campus. Tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing some current events surrounding ICE and other deportations. Just as a quick announcement, meetings are Monday nights in Centennial 1704, 7 to 8 p.m. And stay tuned because we're going to announce Actually, can we announce it? Our podcast schedule? Are we ready to go with that? Or do we have anything else to discuss regarding that?
I think go for it.
Okay, so we're going to get back to a weekly podcast schedule. We'll be filming the podcasts later in the week, so you should expect at least one podcast upload a week. We can't necessarily commit to the day because, again, we're just college students and sometimes we get a little busy. But you should look forward to expecting one new episode a week from us moving forward. Okay, without further ado, tonight's topic is ICE and border and illegal immigration and all this. So I just wanted to set the stage here. There's a lot of controversy going on. I wanted to take a second for everybody to take a step back and maybe take like a 300-foot view of this issue. So there have been a tremendous amount of illegal crossings over the southern border and an increase in the undocumented immigrant population over the last 25 to 30 years. This has been a persistent issue that many Americans have weighed in on and have informed in polls that this is something they've been concerned about for a very long time. So I just have a couple snippets I want to cover here. So the undocumented population in the United States is estimated to have reached a record level in recent years.
Wow.
So, for example, one report puts the number at about 14 million in 2023. So this is from the AP. So this is classic mainstream media when they talk about this issue. They used to say that we had 10 million illegal immigrants in 2012.
But math isn't mathing.
So it just doesn't make sense. Like they used to because not even actually necessarily 2012, like 2014, 2015, when Trump started running, he was talking about illegal immigration, and they were claiming we had 14 million. A safe estimate is that Joe Biden let in 5 to 8 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. This is from border agents and ICE and DHS. Now, a liberal guess on that, and I mean liberal in the sense of we're not, we're stretching the number, would be 10 million illegals. So there's no way that there's 14 total.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this trend in illegal immigrants has burdened enforcement agencies like ICE and Border Patrol. Border Patrol patrols the actual southern border, and ICE is more of what you're seeing in the videos on Twitter. So let's talk a little bit about public concern. So according to the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, 54% of Americans say that, quote, controlling and reducing illegal immigration should be very important for the U.S. as a goal, including 86% of Republicans who think the same thing. So among Republicans, this is unanimous. In an LPSOS, do you know what this is? I was going to abbreviate it. Found that 35% believe that immigration should be easier, and 43% support giving legal status to undocumented or illegally entered migrants.
So that's much higher than I would have expected.
Right, it is higher than you'd expect, but this is a clear less than majority of the population do not think that it is right that illegal migrants are coming over into the country and flooding into our country.
Well, right, and look at the election.
Right.
Trump won the election mostly based off of immigration.
Right. I mean, and y'all remember that they were holding up mass deportations now signs at the RNC. And this was a huge topic of conversation. He won in 2016 on Build the Wall. So I think we all recognize that this has been a pretty serious political talking point for a long time. And the trend that I'm noticing is that, even going back to George Bush, Republicans like to talk on this issue, and Democrats like to act on this issue. And when Democrats get into power, they're all like pro-immigrant, and they just like open the border up and let people come in. When Republicans talk on this, they talk tough and then they don't do a ton because they're concerned. That's where this controversy is coming in, is that Trump has, for the first time in recent history, been using federal ICE agents to deport illegal immigrants on a more national scale. So this brings us to the hotbed of these ICE, what do we want to call them? Raids? We'll call them ICE raids, but like there's liberal backlash. I don't want to call them riots. Protests, maybe. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protests on the verge of riot.
Yeah, they're
we
pretty
need like
close.
an in-between word.
They're pretty close.
Yeah. And it depends on where you look. Some are just protests, and some are more crossing that line into riot. I mean, some have turned very violent, so.
So, Tatiana, you want to talk a little bit about the Portland situation?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the places where there's a lot of anti-ICE citizens, I guess would be the way I put it, is over in Portland. And I think we all remember when Portland was the star of the show back with the BLM riots and 2020 COVID stuff. And so this time they had this phenomenal idea, guys. I don't think this has ever been done before, but they decided to do a bike ride to protest ICE. But even better, it was a naked bike ride.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they rode around the city naked. And guess what? ICE is totally disbanded now because of that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But no, it's wild. And like at one point I heard that they were like laying on the bridge naked. Like I just don't understand it. I guess they've done these naked bike rides like every year in Portland, but typically it's for like the environment.
Oh.
I don't understand the correlation
that seems like
there.
a very Portland thing to do.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get too. But this year they decided they wanted to be special and dedicated to ICE.
Oh, okay.
So they probably just wanted cameras on them, let's be honest.
True.
But that wasn't enough. Then they were like, we have an even better idea. Let's do a laser show so that ICE helicopters can't land in Portland. Well, there were no ICE helicopters trying to land in Portland, but there were medevac helicopters trying to land at the #1 trauma center in the state, which is in Portland.
Yeah.
So they didn't prevent ICE from doing anything. They only prevented people from getting life-saving care that they needed. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. They're not thinking through what they're doing, and actually they're causing much more harm than any of these ICE raids are causing.
Right. And this is all over like illegal use of federal law enforcement.
Yeah.
All this outreach. And
right.
So like that brings me to Chicago. So Chicago has had a lot of similar situations with protesters coming after ICE agents. So the federal ICE agents set up a detention facility in Broadview, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. A local judge ordered the fence surrounding the ICE facility to be taken down, which was very controversial because that was following a lot of like physical attacks on the ICE agents at the detention facility. Like they were throwing items, they were ramming into ICE vehicles. And then there was this when they took the fence down, there was this huge protest outside of the Broadview ICE facility, and a total of 15 people were arrested outside. So the chief of police in Chicago has been a huge topic of conversation, and this actually brings us to like a bigger, scarier issue is, the role of the state and local authority versus the federal authority with an issue like this. We're seeing that, especially in Chicago and in Illinois, the state and local government are deciding to resist the federal authority on this issue. And one example of this is Chicago Police Chief, our Chief of Patrol, John Hine, ordered Chicago Police Department to, quote, not assist ICE agents in, quote, high tension situations.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like the way that he's trying to argue this is that it's, he's trying to keep his officers safe,
Mm-hmm.
but their role is, I mean, any local force's role is to assist the feds when the
Right.
feds come in. I mean, they're one team, they're law enforcement. Mayor Brandon Johnson had a lot to say too about the, quote, negative impact that ICE is having in his communities, but I think the most jarring comments come from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. And I want to read a quote from him. So Governor Pritzker says, "These people should recognize that maybe they're not going to get prosecuted today, although we're looking at doing that, but they may get prosecuted after the Trump administration for things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run." He's referring to ICE agents. He's referring to the state of Illinois prosecuting ICE agents, or the next Democrats' Department of Justice prosecuting ICE agents. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, like, I feel like this is a clear step towards. I hate using the term civil war, but this is like stepping towards a
I get what you're
constitutional
saying.
crisis,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's like a full-on threat that they're pushing here to really try and scare ICE agents and scare people from wanting to be ICE agents. So really, it's just a fear tactic that I'm seeing, and I think it's totally condemnable, and we should go after Pritzker for these comments.
So you think that Trump should empower AG Bondi to threaten or actually prosecute J.B. Pritzker or Brandon Johnson for their comments or their refusal to aid ICE agents?
I mean, if these are true threats, which aren't covered by the First Amendment, this is something that would be, certainly we'd be able to go after them for that, because true threats aren't covered, so.
Well, and I think you're in a power position, right? And in that position, it is your role to protect your citizens. And when the federal government has to step in and do that for you, you need to either step aside or help.
Right.
And that's not what we're seeing, in these places like Chicago and Portland. We're seeing, police are being told to stand down and interfere with, the detention of illegal immigrants. They're here illegally. They need to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's not anything complicated about that. The same way that anyone else commits a crime, police step in, detain them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not going to do that and protect their cities, then, Trump's doing what we all voted for him to do, to come in and do it for them.
I totally agree. And Jackson, your point is very valid. Like if this was a different situation over something, less set in stone legally, like there'd be less of an argument, for Trump to just be coming down hard. But I actually agree with you. Like it doesn't make any sense that like this is the hill they want to die on. That the federal government is responsible for enforcing immigration law. That ICE and border agents have operated under Obama, under Clinton, under every Democrat president going back until the founding of ICE and border customs. So it's like I just don't understand how they're these Democrat mayors and governors are losing their minds over this and trying to resist the duty of those officers. That's like the nature of their job. That's like if Texas decides that they don't want to, their citizens have said, we're not going to pay federal tax. We won't pay any federal income tax.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Biden administration says, well, yeah, you are. You're going to pay federal income tax. So I'm going to send the IRS agents in and we're going to come and get you or get your money.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be justified in doing so because at the moment, the federal income tax is constitutional and it's the Fed's ability to enforce that law.
Right.
And so it's like I just don't understand why people have gotten so up in arms. Listen, I do understand there's a lot of videos where, if you are sympathetic on the other side of this issue, you look at a lot of these videos of ICE agents or, some of the stuff DHS is posting and think, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But, you also have to remember, like, you broke the law. These people broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if I broke the law and I was going to get arrested and the officer told me to put my hands behind my back, I just would. Because,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
like,
and that's another good point is I think
I won't
part of the
resist,
issue
you
is
know?
we've lost all respect for, law enforcement in general.
100%.
Where there's this idea that you can trample all over them and you have a right that supersedes them.
Yeah.
And it's just sad to see, in the sense of how disrespectful we are towards law enforcement. And then there's the other aspect, kind of like what you were mentioning, that they're federal employees. They're gonna act from the federal government. Like, what'd you expect?
Right.
And I think people argue, well, states' rights. But states aren't their own countries. You can't just do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
They're a state under the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you need to work together. And if you can't, then comes the question of, are you trying to be your own country, and how are we going to deal with that?
Right. No, and that's the same thing. Is like it's interesting to me that I just don't understand how they don't see it that way. That, like, if it were the other way around, like, I mean, they would be kicking and screaming that you need to listen to the federal government, and they wouldn't be wrong, So it's just like if the federal government has primacy on an issue like this, then you have to acquiesce to. If it's legal, then yeah, but and it is. It's like these people cross the border illegally. They're
Right.
here illegally, and they're being removed legally.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So a question for you guys. Do you feel that the optics on this could have been managed any differently by President Trump? I think that's a main reason why a lot of, the left is charged up on this issue, is because, like, when they open their Twitter, they're seeing videos of ICE agents, throwing people onto the ground.
Instagram,
And the DHS Instagram videos, they're like hype edits of deportations. Do you think that could be messaged differently, or do you guys support that?
Honestly, I think Trump should be a bit harder with it, like be harder on it, and just outright say you can't be doing this stuff. It's illegal. It goes against the federal government, and we're gonna take a firm stance on this. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And honestly, I think what Trump's doing is something that we don't often see from people in political power. Is he's going beyond just the politics of it and trying to change the culture and show us that, yeah, crime is not something we celebrate here in America. We celebrate actually prosecuting crime. And I think that there is benefit to that.
Yeah, I think it's good as long as it's met with, like as long as Trump isn't just doing it to appease the base.
Yeah, I would
Like,
agree
as
with
long
that.
as he's not just putting those videos out to, like, make us feel good, and he's, like, serious about it, and he's doing it as, like, listen, this is what we got elected to do, and America supports us in doing this.
Right, I don't want time
like,
and money to be wasted making those edits.
And you don't
when
want
it could be used
right.
deporting more people.
Or, and you don't even really want to charge up the left this way. Because
Right.
they're getting motivated on this. And so it's like, if you're going to do this, you need to be effective in what you're doing and use it as a tool
exactly.
to kind of show the illegal immigrant population that we mean business, and this is what the American citizens voted for. In a popular vote, in an electoral landslide, this is what the Trump administration is here to do, and we're going to do it, and then continue to carry it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get worried is, like, at this pace, we're only supposed to have, 450,000 deportations this year?
Yeah, numbers, it depends on where you look. I've seen that we're close to 500,000.
Sure, call it
But,
500,000.
yeah,
call it,
but
we
either
can call it
way,
500,000 in
you know-
1 year. If you want to, let's say that Joe Biden, brought in 10 million illegal immigrants. You probably need to deport 2.5 million a year to get
Yeah,
rid of all 10
right.
who came here
And I
in
know
4 years,
the
who
Trump-
shouldn't be here.
Right. And the Trump administration, DHS, have said that they've had over 1 million deport through, like, self-deportation. I don't know how accurate that number is.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think that there's benefit to that, too. They have this app, and I actually think this is a really creative idea. They have the CBP home app, and you pretty much just go home, and if you're here illegally, you can use the app to leave the country.
Really?
Yeah, so that you self-deport.
Wow. Okay.
And it's kind of ingenious.
Interesting.
And apparently it's working, so... I mean, if I was here illegally and I see them, going after people who are here illegally and arresting them and sending them wherever, where I have the choice to leave and go where I want to,
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a safer way of doing it.
So one of the big arguments that we see a lot of times is judges are blocking the efforts of Trump to deport, and that's kind of an argument for why we see such low numbers compared to what we wanted. And how do we feel about that response? Do we think Trump needs to step it up, or do we think this really is on those judges blocking the ICE agent?
I mean, it's just anti-American at this point to block federal law from being put in place. I mean, there's just a point in time where you gotta overrule these judges. The judicial system is for checks and balances, not to rule the entire government and not to overreach upon the executive branch. So we've really got to remember that there are 3 equal levels of government, not the judicial branch is in charge of everything.
Yeah, Jackson, I think you bring up an interesting point. That, like, there's definitely a question to be had about, like, the role of the judiciary at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen this a lot with a lot of executive orders. Like, it's like the president gets elected, by a huge political mandate. The country's on his side, and he enacts some executive orders, and then some local judges shoot it down. And then we got to litigate this forever. And it just grinds progress to a halt. And this goes for both sides. Like, when Biden will do it, you'll get judges in Texas. When Trump does anything, you get judges all over the place doing stuff. I think it's antithetical to progress, no matter the side. And so, like, if a Democrat wins next time, they win in a huge landslide, maybe they should be allowed to, do whatever they want to do, the same way that we should. That's a different question than I think what, we're answering here, which is like, could Trump be doing more, or are the judges really the ones to blame? I want to say Trump could do more. I really don't like this excuse of, like, nothing's ever Trump's fault. He's trying so hard.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting in his way. It's the people in his cabinet. It's the judges here. It's the judges there. Like, this guy just, to me, I've been following him for far too long to not know that, like, he's not the best governor. Mm-hmm. Like, he is the best messenger. He is the best campaigner. He's the best personality. Like, he is one of the best, most revolutionary personality types, in politics in 150 years.
Right.
Like, seriously. I mean, he will go down in history books as a feat of nature for being able to captivate an audience the way that he has, to overcome what he has, and then to win again. But Trump's proven that he's not, like, if he wanted to, he would have just jammed his cabinet full of, like, rock-ribbed, hardcore, America First, Trump loyalists, and he didn't. He put Marco Rubio in as Secretary of State. Pam Bondi is the AG, and we got $75 billion for ICE in the Big Beautiful Bill. Got $75 billion. Like, you can deport people if you want to.
Where is that money going?
There's a lot of political thinkers that say, like, I like to think, I've come to this realization that if there's a will, there's a way. Like, if there's a political will, there's a way. Like, and so if the Democrats wanted to, when they get elected, if they wanted to, they can just jam in and put in an abortion law. They'll just do it, And, like, if there's an attitude for it, they'll just do it. But, like, at the moment, I think there's a questionable attitude for as many deportations as there was an attitude for after the election. But if Trump wanted to, he could have came in and just said, yeah, we're going to do mass deportations. This is what we ran on. This is what we're doing, and flooded it. Now, $75 billion, I don't know. What is he... I will say the judges, they're getting in the way. Do you want to escalate a conflict with Pritzker in
Right,
Illinois
yeah.
or Portland or in Oregon? Or he's playing a game, but from a perspective of someone who voted for deportations, I just would like to see more of them.
Do you think that the reason we're not seeing more of them is because his focus is on other things, or because there's a lack of strategic thinking?
Ah, man, it's definitely a little bit of both. Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's got to be a bit of both. Like on one side you have the strategic aspect of it, like as Ryan said, if there's a will, there's a way. He's gonna do it. But then on the other side, he has been doing a lot of other things, especially with this recent government shutdown. They've probably been talking a lot about that, as well as some other big issues they've been worrying about. So honestly, I'm not sure. I don't have any strong stance on either side of it, which way it could go.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I don't know. I'm with you on the if there's a will, there's a way. And I think, I stand pretty similarly where there's definitely not enough happening. And I think Trump gets set in his way sometimes, and he sees that we can do it this way, and he just keeps trying to drive through that way. And especially with, like Jackson said, the government shutdown and everything else happening both globally and nationally, that he hasn't taken the time to go and, gather a team of, okay, how can we do this differently?
Yeah.
Like, has he, done some creative destruction in a sense and been like, this is where we're at, the numbers aren't where we need them, let's break down everything we're doing and rebuild.
Well, and the other thing I'd like to say too is the first administration had a lot of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
We were firing people. Like Trump was like, if you're not working, you're out. You're fired. That was his thing. And now it's like, I don't want to sit here and destroy Trump because he's the president and he's the guy I voted for. So I want him to do good. But this is, and I'm going to speak plainly, this is a sober reality that the Trump administration and the Republican Party writ large needs to address, that the under 25 demographic is like falling fast on Trump. Like, we voted for a guy who promised us a lot of things, and not many of them are getting fulfilled. The border is good. The border is a shining star for Donald Trump.
Right.
He shut down the border. We're getting almost nobody coming across. Yeah. Thank God that he's allowing us to breathe for a second. We could not have handled another 4 years of just a full wave of third world migrants that don't speak the language, don't want to speak the language, will lower wages, take up housing, use public services, run for office, win, change the country. And it's not unfair for us to have those opinions. So where I'm going with this is that I think the border itself is great, but Trump ran on a couple things. No new wars. We're in a few new wars. He seems like he's doesn't even care to stop some of these wars. And a lot of our perspectives is like, you know how you end the war in Russia and Ukraine? You cut Ukraine loose.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would care. We just want the war to end. You know? And now to move to immigration, it's like we voted for mass deportations. Mass deportations means something to the voter. Not like we're going to post edits. And so but at the same time, you've got the judges coming in and blocking all these things, and and they had that whole dramatic incident with the guy that got sent to El Salvador or whatever, and they make it seem like we're just like nabbing, citizens of Mexican ethnicity and throwing them out. Right. It's like, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know.
I will say, I think, to touch a little bit on the recent elections that we saw more of a blue wave, right? Which is very
serious blue wave. Yeah.
Very different than last election cycle. But I actually think that shows that Trump is doing something if people feel the need to stand up against it.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about his wins. I'd love to talk about his wins too, but that's where I'd agree is this New York situation's pretty crazy though.
Yeah.
With Mom Dami or
yeah.
Zoran.
Yeah,
What do you
that's-
guys think of him?
I'm so excited to take the bus and have so many homeless people on there. Like, I don't think they realize how many poor bus drivers are gonna have to deal with assault on a daily basis now.
They're going to have to get an officer on the bus to
Oh,
protect the bus
definitely.
drivers, or no one's going to become a bus driver.
They should put the bus drivers in like a plexiglass chamber.
They will.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They'll do that. They'll do that before they switch their ways.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just think it's crazy. Like this is where we're headed. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's interesting when you look at like the New York City, like who makes up the most amount of the New York City tax base is going to get chased out of that city faster than you can even imagine, because that's how these socialists work. They come in and they say, well, we need free this and free that, and people have a right to this and a right to that, and we need all this stuff. And they say, well, we're not going to tax. They don't want to do it the way that Sweden does it. Sweden taxes everybody at like 45%.
Right.
Everybody is paying a lot of tax, and they're all okay with it. But in America, the poor people don't want to, and the people in the lower middle class, they are tax adverse. They don't want to hear about
Right,
taxes. They
yeah.
don't want you to try and tax them, but they want free stuff, and so they'll go and they'll tax everybody else. And so it's like this Zoran's idea of like, we're gonna tax anybody who's over $1 million. These people are gonna run from that city
Right.
so
They're
fast.
just going to go to a different city. Yeah.
They're just gonna run, and all these people from New York are gonna just shift right down to Florida,
Right. Yeah.
or Tennessee,
definitely.
or Texas.
Well, and the other thing that he said was the government's going to solve all your problems. No problem is too big or too small for the government to solve. And I'm like, no, I don't want the government solving all my problems. Like, that should be a major red flag, and people, are cheering over that. And that's just a scary thought to me, that people feel so dependent on the government.
Yeah, Jackson, what do you think?
Kind of going off of what Tatiana was saying, I really agree with that sentiment, because it was what Ronald Reagan who said that, the government is the problem, and people cheered. And then you had Bill Clinton saying, the government can't solve all the problems. And now it's Mamdani saying, oh, trust the government with your life and we'll solve every single issue. There's no problem too big. And that's a super concerning thing to see how much we've devolved in that period of time. And I think that's my biggest thing. And then just I saw a recent poll where it was like 90% of people or something like that who lived in New York less than 5 years voted for Mamdani, and it just got smaller and smaller the longer that they lived in New York. And it makes you wonder how many people that voted were actually United States citizens, especially because some of the other information that we've seen where they're not even like accepting people's IDs when they go to vote, which huge concern for me. But I guess that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is a socialist is not running a major United States city.
Right, and New York is like the hub of the U.S. Like, it is the American city, or at least it was at one time. And I'm curious to see how that'll change and what will become the new, American city. I don't know. It's sad to see, and it's gonna become a very violent city. Like, I wish I would have had a chance to go before all this, because now I have a feeling it's gonna become kind of a mess.
Yeah.
More mess than it already is.
No, for sure. I kind of feel that too. Never been there.
Me neither.
It'd be fun to be. Any comments that you guys want to share before we wrap up here?
I'll take one.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that the Omar guy didn't win in Minneapolis, right? Was that where it was? The Somali immigrant?
Jacob Fry won instead of him.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, there was definitely some wins, but not as many as we were hoping for. But like I said, I think that shows us that what Trump is doing is real stuff. He's not just saying stuff. And I know, we push him hard on the immigration. We'd like to see more stuff, and sometimes we get frustrated with the global affairs side of it. But he's delivering more than a lot of presidents have in a long time, and a lot of political leaders have in a long time. and I'm very, very satisfied with that. So yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts there.
For sure. That's good to leave on. Well, thanks for listening to Right on Campus. We post this podcast weekly, where we tackle current events and life as a conservative on campus. If you'd like to learn more about UWEC College Republicans, join our meetings on Monday nights in Centennial 1704 at 7 p.m. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at UWEC College Republicans, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or favorite and share this podcast if you're listening on Spotify. Have a great night. Thank you for listening to Right on Campus. We post this podcast once a week, where we talk about current events and life as a conservative on campus. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at UWEC College Republicans. Have a great night, and see you next time.